Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Football Fan Show. I'm joined by my co-host Carlos. It's lovely to have you as always. And we're going to talk about all things to do with the English Premier League. So, what's happened is that proposed by Liverpool and Manchester United, however it affects the top six teams, they've put forward a proposal which is radical. Now, they've been talking about it for a while, about all this kind of things over the years. And it's all been kind of almost poo-pooed, not really looked at, not taken seriously. But at this time of COVID, lots of money has been lost. So it's time for them, it's appropriate for them to bring it up again. Because really, there is money required by the big clubs, and they want to make sure that they collect most of it, to be honest, and other proposals for the clubs lower down. So it's been dubbed the big picture project, big picture, and the top six teams. Let's talk about the top six teams first of all, Carlos. So let's think of the realistic, the historical top six teams. Three in the north, three in the south. One actually just came into the picture only a few years ago, Manchester City. So we got Manchester City, we got Man United, who've been around for a while. They won the league. Then we've got Liverpool. So those are three teams at the top in the north. And down south, we've got Arsenal, Chelsea, and Tottenham, who've come into the picture. Out of all those five teams, I must add, out of all those six teams, I must add, only five of them, well, all five apart from Tottenham, have won the league, to be honest. So there you go. But what do you think, first of all, about this big picture? So we're going to go through the whole situation. But what's your thoughts on the whole idea of it in the first place? Is it the right time?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that when the Premier League discussions first happened in 1992, and probably before then, in order to introduce the league in season 92-93, the Big Six did not obviously include Manchester City. It was Everton then. So things have changed. Things have changed. And since when are Manchester City a bigger club than Everton? They're not.
Yeah,
they're
true.
just rich. They're just richer. Okay, so with regards to the big project, or what did you say it's called?
It's dubbed the big project, big picture, project, big picture.
Okay, well, I would like to redub it the Big Con.
And what's the reason for that?
This is clearly an attempt by the top teams to gain more power, to make more money, to make all the decisions in English football at the expense of every other club. Now, what they're doing is they're dressing it up as a bit of charity to help out the smaller teams, because they have included some beneficial points, for instance, handing out money to help the smaller clubs in the EFL survive. But that is the the wolf in the sheep's clothing, because all they're trying to do is make it appear appealing, when in fact they have no interest in the welfare of any other club but themselves. Yeah. This is clearly a move for the top six to break away, to be able to make any decision they want in the future. And who knows, this might even lead to a breakaway altogether and to the first step towards a European league.
Yeah. Well, and okay, we can talk about the pros and cons of it, but let's look at the first situation. So you're talking about a breakaway situation. So I know now that the other clubs have come into the picture, the Leicesters, the Wolves, the rest of it. But surely the top six teams, which we just talked about, there are a few historical ones, but the top six teams make all the money. Surely they have the right then to come into the picture and decide that actually we want more of the pot because we're making all the money for everyone else.
I've heard that argument before here in Spain, where I live. Real Madrid and Barcelona get more money from the TV companies. And the argument is they're the bigger clubs, they make the money for everyone else. But I would dispute that, because if that were the case, let them play 38 times between themselves. They need the other teams to play against them. Otherwise, if they played each other for 38 matches, by the sixth game, no one would be interested.
Sure.
So this is a league in which there are 20 teams, and 20 teams are as important as each other. Everyone is needed, otherwise there is no league.
Yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. I get what you're saying there, but at the same time, even though other teams are involved and they need to be in the league, okay, some of the games, let's be honest, are very boring, low quality, almost championship quality. Whilst with the top teams bring in top quality players from all over the world, and give entertainment. I mean, even the networks, let's be quite frank, like to put on the top teams and make a big spectacle about them rather than the other teams. You know, Super Sunday, I think about us in the UK here, Super Sunday, the highlight games are always got one of the top six teams in them. So that I can understand their argument as well. That hold on a sec, you know, we are the guys that you're putting on TV all the time. Arsenal are on the TV. Last year they were on the TV before the COVID kicked off, virtually every week, and Man City as well. So, and then obviously the Liverpool, you know, parade. So that I get where they're coming from there, and even the stuff Premier League selling to all these countries, to Spain, to America, to all around the world. There's a lot of money that surely they're owed.
I think they're making enough. They're making more already than anyone else. Already they are making more money than anyone else. They're getting richer by the minute, whereas other clubs, yes, their finances have improved thanks to the Premier League, but I see no reason why giant money-making institutions such as the top six clubs should have an advantage over other clubs that are playing in exactly the same competition. I don't think that just because they have more supporters or they have more TV hours than anyone else, they should be rewarded higher than anyone else. Because already that's what's happening. But if the league in itself determines that or makes decisions that allows them to go even further, to grow even further, and keep all the other teams where they are, then that's totally unfair. Also, there's the basic principle of democracy.
Okay.
You see, they would be infringing on the basic principle of democracy. Only the top six teams would be making all the decisions for the 18 clubs that they want to participate in that new Premier League, because they want the number of teams to go down from 20 to 18. As it stands, all 20 teams vote. And if you have a 14-team majority, whatever is being voted can be approved, can be passed. But the new idea, the new con, would would only allow the top 9 teams, what they call the longest shareholders, to vote, of which a majority would be 6. And that would include the top 6. Obviously, the top 6 would agree on something, and the 3 remaining clubs, which I think are Everton, Southampton, and West Ham, it doesn't matter. I mean, their position, even though they would be in that top 9, would be of no influence whatsoever, because as long as the top 6 agreed on something, West Ham's vote, Southampton's vote, Everton's vote would be totally worthless.
Okay, so on the last bit of this kind of back and forth, I would like to say that we know that the teams at the top 6, and a couple more, if we're quite honest, the Evertons of the rest of it, will always be in the league. Okay, even at the worst time they've ever been, some terrible managers, they've never been in danger of leaving the Premiership. So with that in mind, all these teams, no matter who you look at, they may have 1 year, which is amazing, 2 years, 5 years, you know, it could be even 10. I mean, even look at Fulham, obviously your team. They were in the Premiership for how long? 7 years? 6, 7 years? How long
we were in the Premier League for 13 years.
13 years. 13 years. That's you know, some kid's lifetime. And you left. Now you're back, which is fantastic. But my point is that
Not the way it's going.
yeah, it's not looking good. But it's still early days, so there's still hope. There's hope where there's time. With the situation, those teams which are going to stay know that they're going to be there. The teams, if you give more power to the teams that may be there 13 years, maybe they're a year, whatever amount of time, always will be looking over their shoulder, because if they leave the Premiership, they go to the Championship, what, do they lose their vote, or how does it work? And what if they come back up? So I understand some of the reasoning behind why the top six should have more power over the decision making that happens in the league that they're never going to leave.
I understand why they want extra power, but I don't think it's fair. I don't see why these six teams should set up firewalls to make sure that they are the ones who always qualify for the Champions League and qualify for Europe, and put a stop to the Leicester Cities of this world.
Yeah.
Now, Leicester City have as much right as Man United and Liverpool, the instigators of this big con, to earn a top four position or to win the league and to play in the Champions League. Obviously, if they do that, one of the big six would be pushed out, and only three of those would play in the Champions League rather than four. So I don't see why they should set up firewalls. This is a competition, and competition should be free and it should be fair. I mean, even in the US, the team that finishes bottom in the basketball, the NBA, has top pick of the draft in order to try to gain a bit of equality, to allow the smaller teams to improve and do better and put in a better challenge the following season. This seems to be going the other way. This is just going to leave the top six miles away from the rest. So we're going to have two leagues. I mean, you could say we have a two leagues now within the Premier League, but it's not really the case, because look at Leicester. Everton could break into that top four.
Yeah.
Wolves could have done so.
Yeah. No,
They were
I get
close to doing
it.
I mean, every so often you are going to get a team breaking into the top. And every so often you are going to get a top team that will drop a bit. Don't forget, a few years ago, the regular teams qualifying for the Champions League were Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea and Arsenal. Then Arsenal dropped out. Then Liverpool dropped out. Then Chelsea dropped out. They've all dropped out.
Yeah, it's true. It's a fair point. No, that's a fair point. And I get that. And it is good to see. And I suppose it's refreshing and entertaining to see Leicester come in, get a go at the Champions League. They did well. Everton came once. They didn't do so well, and obviously Wolves and Sheffield United had an opportunity and unfortunately didn't work out. And I get all that. But still the fact remains that if you think about the ownership, let's talk about the ownership for now. So Liverpool's owned by Americans. Arsenal's owned by Americans. Now, you've talked about the situation. Man United is owned by Americans. Obviously, Man City and Tottenham, Chelsea, owned by various other countries. But it's three people under one nation. America, you just talked about the American model. We can't quite go the American model because they're franchising. So obviously, like the NBA, they own all the rights and then they franchise out the teams. They pay, obviously, whatever amount of billions to franchise out the team. But once they have the team, they could, apart from obviously playing in the tournament, they have everything comes to them, and that's why this has come, I think, to the fore. Because who are the two teams leading the negotiations? Two Americans, Liverpool and Man United, because they know that even though we can't have the franchise situation, they have in America all the things they have there. They have complete control of everything and can renegotiate separately with the networks. And that's obviously what they want to do. Obviously, you can't get a situation like that. But if you can do it with the top six, it's easy to have an individual negotiation. And in the situation, I think realistically, a breakaway would not happen. I don't think it would. But I think a separate tournament, because we're going to talk about the stipulations in a minute, a separate tournament outside of the League Cup or any of these type of cups would probably be for them more exciting, and maybe for us the fans maybe, but also it'll make them the money they want. Surely that I mean that's more what they're looking for, right?
Basically, more power, more money. They want the ability to make any decision at any time without the hindrance of having to rely on other teams voting in their favor.
Okay.
I think that the American system stimulates competition because the lesser teams are allowed to improve. A better competition can be sold much better as well on TV. Whereas if you, instead of stimulating competition, if you destroy it by creating such a gulf between the powerful teams and the rest, there won't be much interest in watching that.
Yeah.
So gradually, I think foreign interest will wane. Now, there's another issue which again demonstrates that these top six teams do not want competition. They don't want anyone challenging them. The big plan, project, stroke, con would allow the top six teams to prevent any other millionaire coming in and buying another Premier League club. No, I don't think that's fair. Say if someone wanted to take over Newcastle and put in a lot of money in the way that happened at Manchester City. Newcastle have the same right as Manchester City. They have the same right as Chelsea to be bought by a millionaire and to become a powerful football team. But this plan includes the right for these clubs to veto the purchase of another club by any particular consortium.
Yeah, no, that's true. Of course, that these are the things which, are very controversial. So let's talk about them. So first of all, the Premier League has firstly said that this stuff would have a damaging impact. So they're obviously not on board, but they have to negotiate because these clubs could potentially go off and do it anyway. There's one point before we go on to the actual proposal I want to talk about as well. You talk about people get bored, but in Spain, there's only two clubs. In Germany, there's only one who's always at the top, winning everything. Italy, there's only two. Obviously, Atalanta's coming, which is nice, refreshing. But people are always used to, in many leagues, being a predictable end. So, and even in this country, it's a predictable end. We've obviously had Leicester, but outside of that, the top six win everything. They win the League Cup, they win the FA Cup, they win the league itself, always. There's no kind of, apart from the Leicester, and when the league started, when Premiership started with Blackburn, outside of that, really, we've had no surprises, have we? So I get that as well, that they've said that they're winning everything, they're in control of everything. People are still tuning in, even though they pretty much know, just like we talked about off air about the French Open. We know the result.
Yeah.
But people are still tuning in. So that's something to think about.
Well, what I would say about the Spanish league, for instance, is that you've got Atletico Madrid as well. You've got Sevilla, who this season might do well. There's always an outsider who has a good run. Yes, you know that either Real Madrid or Barcelona are going to win the league. But the only reason why that particular competition is popular abroad is because those two teams have been winning the Champions League for the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
Had they not been winning the Champions League on a regular basis, then I don't think anyone would have been interested. What would be the point of watching a foregone conclusion between two teams that are not being successful abroad, for instance? I think the main appeal of the Premier League is the level playing field and the fact that, for the most part, okay, it hasn't been the case in the past two seasons, but for the most part of what we've seen from the Premier League since 1992, has been the inconsistency of top teams. Okay, we've had Man U who've won regularly. We had Arsenal's phase, but you do get different champions.
Yeah.
And you do get, as I said, teams breaking into the top four. And you do get the smaller teams upsetting the big fish occasionally.
Yeah.
I think that is the main appeal of the Premier League, and has been in comparison to other leagues over the years.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I'll take that on board. So let's look at the proposals anyway. So I think this is the huge one. The Premier League, as in there's 20 teams, they want to cut it from 20 to 18 teams. So 2 teams will never get the chance to come up. Okay, which I know is a great thing for the Championship. With the Championship, League One and League Two each retaining 24 teams. So what's your thoughts on that, first of all? I mean, that's probably, for me, one of the most uncomfortable proposals.
Well, it seems a bit unfair because it does reduce the chances of teams like Watford, Fulham, and others to compete at the top level. Also, you see, this has implications further down the league.
Yeah.
Because it means that 2 teams will have to leave the league and go into the conference, the National League, because that would reduce the 4 divisions from 92 to 90. So that obviously, as I said, has not only implications at the top, but it also has serious implications at the bottom. I mean, can you imagine, I don't know, Fleetwood or whoever being forced out of the league just because the top 6 wants the Premier League reduced?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. I mean, it'd be. I just think that, like you said, it's unfair. I can't think of anything more to say about it. It's just, it's so unfair that teams in the Championship wouldn't get the opportunity, and all that hard work. It's not like it's a couple of games here and there. It's what was it? 46 games, is it?
46 if it's a 24-team competition.
46 games, and you still may not get the chance. But this is the other thing that's even more controversial. Their second proposal: Premier League clubs, the bottom 2. So this is out of the 18. So forget the 2 who haven't had the chance, or who have to drop down, as you say, after one season. Because obviously this means that if you finish 20th and 19th, you're gone. Which regardless of the situation, I suppose you were going to get relegated anyway, I'd say. But out of the 16th place, 17th place, they will have to fight for the playoffs. The bottom 2 teams in the Premier League relegate automatically, with the 16th place team joining the Championship playoffs. So the 16th team joining the Championship playoffs. Isn't that a bit bizarre? And isn't that almost a bit unfair? Because it's almost like they've been in the Premiership. Surely they're ahead. I don't know. You tell me. What's your thoughts?
Well, what they're trying to do is make it a bit more appealing. They're trying to turn a plan which is obviously not good for anyone but the top 6 into something attractive. In that way, what they're doing is they are saying that 2 teams will be relegated, but the 3rd team that would have been relegated in other circumstances will have a second chance. So those teams that are in the Premier League and who know that season after season they'll be trying to fight off relegation might find it appealing, because they might think, okay, even if I finish in what would have been a relegation spot, I've got a second chance. I can play the playoffs with the Championship sides, like they do in Germany, and I might actually save my skin and be in the Premier League the following season.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, they do it in the rugby league. Now in rugby league, they do it where you get to play, the team that's on the bottom gets to play with the guys who are trying to come up. So I get that, and I mean, I suppose it's an opportunity, but yeah. I mean, do you think that'll work? What's your thoughts on it?
Yes, I think it'll work. I don't have a problem with that part of the plan.
Mm.
All I'm saying is that there are certain points that are included in order to get this plan approved by everyone else who might see that they're being given something that they will benefit from it when in fact they won't. But this is just a cover-up in order to pass and approve the other parts of the plan, which are, I think, a recipe for disaster for English football.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And they're talking about the League Cup and the Community Shield being abolished. Now, for me, the League Cup and the Community Shield being abolished. So for me, this is probably one of the most positive ones, because at the end of the day, no one watches the League Cup, and no one plays their top team in the League Cup. So it's an opportunity to blood the youngsters or people who've been long time injured, but overall, it's not something which is really looked on with great interest. They don't get much sponsorship, everything kind of is not great. Community Shield, again, is one that doesn't really reflect anything. I mean, look, it's nice to win something for Arsenal anyway, but it doesn't really mean anything, and it doesn't impinge on the league at all. When we played Liverpool, a week later, we lost. So I get this, and I'm quite happy with this one.
I don't really see the point of getting rid of the Community Shield because it's one match. So what do they gain? There is something extra that they're not telling us. And the reason why I believe they're trying to get rid of the Community Shield is because they want an extra week to play friendlies in China and the US and make money.
Yeah, fair point.
When it comes to the League Cup, again, I don't see the point in abolishing the competition, because if the top teams are trying to reduce the number of matches they play, and therefore they want to abolish the League Cup for that reason, what's stopping them doing what, in effect, they're doing at present, which is, I don't want to play my first team. I'll play my under-23 team. God, I'll even play my juniors if I have to. But don't deny League One and League Two sides the opportunity to play against a Premier League side and make a bit of cash.
Yeah, I get what you said, but they do that in the FA Cup, don't they?
Yes, the FA Cup? They do that in the FA Cup, yes, but the League Cup is another opportunity for small clubs to square up to big teams and maybe make a bit of money.
Yeah, no,
and they need that. Let's face it, they need the opportunity.
Of course they do. They do. There's no two ways about that. This is business, though, Carlos. Come on. I get what you're saying, and I know these grassroots teams need it. But if you were in Liverpool or Manchester United situation, would you be thinking, okay, we'll let this one so that they can make a bit of money? They are talking about, and we'll get into it anyway. They are talking about helping out grassroots, but I think I get what you're saying, but I think as well that you have to look at their situation as well. That they've got to think how else can they make money? And you've talked about the China stuff, the rest of it, but also I think they want to bring in another competition. We've talked about it from the start. Top 6 competition around the world, well, around Europe, not around the world. So like Spain, Italy, England, Germany, maybe those 4. And the top 6 playing like some sort of tournament where they control everything, all the money, all the rights, everything. Premier League, FA can't say nothing to them. I mean, that's my thoughts.
Yes, I think the eventual plan is to introduce a European League, and this would be the first step towards finding a way of quitting the Premier League, or I don't know how they intend doing it, or playing midweek matches midweek Premier League matches and just leaving the weekends for the European League, or the other way around. So they want to have the freedom to do that. And therefore, this is the first step where the top 6 clubs make all the decisions. Fortunately, the FA can still veto anything that the top 6 decides. Anything that the Premier League decides, even now, the FA can veto. So if this plan goes ahead and something untoward occurs, something that will be detrimental to the English game, at least we know that the FA, and we hope that the FA will put a stop to it.
Yeah, we'll see. The thing about it is that because it's such a robust plan, I'm pretty confident that the clubs will not just back down. The FA is a big sticking point, even for us, the fans, right? The FA have made a lot of bad mistakes, steeped in history, that's fair enough. But also at the same time, they have been slow to respond to certain things. It's the same for a lot of these governing bodies. They're not great at dealing with the needs of the people down at the bottom, and even players, obviously, in the Premiership. That's my thoughts on it.
You see, I think what the football clubs are thinking about is what happened in basketball. But in basketball, they had the European Cup.
Yeah.
The same as in football, governed by the basketball authorities. But eventually, in order to increase the number of matches and increase the money from the TV companies, the basketball teams withdrew. They resigned from the European basketball authorities and created their own institution, much in the same way as English football clubs did with the Premier League. So maybe what they will do in Europe is quit UEFA and start their own competition.
Well, yeah, I mean, the governing body, they obviously want to set their own governing body. It's almost like Djokovic, when in the middle of COVID, trying to set up a players' union thing. The powerful and the rich in any sport want to control everything.
In
they
life.
Don't want to be able
in
to.
Life.
Life. They don't answer to anybody. And this is obviously part of it. So before we go into all this stuff here, so is this the beginning of the end for the Premiership? Is it realistically? I don't think so. But what's your thoughts?
Only if it's approved. Only if this goes ahead.
But now, are they going to wait for approval? They're going to come a point where they say, we're doing it anyway.
I don't see how they can unless they resign from the FA and a new European body is set up for them to compete with other European clubs. Because if they don't have FA accreditation and affiliation, then they won't be able to compete abroad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. I'm sure they've got the lawyers and everybody working on it, but it's
Oh, they're working on it. Yeah, of course they're working on it. I think the first step and the first thing they're trying to do. God, I felt like Mike Pence then with a fly. Only it didn't sit on my head. I wonder why. Anyway, the first thing they want to do is convince the other Premier League clubs to approve their plan. They've already got the backing of the chairman of the EFL, who was chairman of the Premier League right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, why the chairman of the EFL would want to go ahead with this, I don't know. I don't want to know. But that is the first step, to try to convince everyone and get it voted in. If that doesn't happen, then who knows what they're planning.
Well, I'll tell you why, because apart from this, we'll talk about two in one here. So parachute payments, they want scrapping. but also they said they're going to pay 250 million rescue fund immediately to the EFL. That's why they were interested, because obviously this we've talked about it for a while now, for the last 4 or 5 months. Even with Boris going on with himself about, oh, we're going to open the stadiums 1st of October and all this nonsense, we know that it was never going to happen, and it's not going to happen this year, and it's not going to happen for the whole season. So let's get that out there. So with all that money, all that revenue lost, Premiership can survive because obviously broadcast the rest of it. I don't know about Tottenham with their new stadium, but that's okay. They may need a bailout, but the EFL rely on the people through the gates, eating the burgers, buying the programs. All this stuff is money. I mean, even I know Arsenal have been too harsh, really, but I think realistically, EFL needs the money, so that's probably why, right?
Yes, but again, I think this is something detrimental, which has been dressed up as something positive. This is money today, money in hand, but what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah.
Now, just imagine that you live in a neighborhood where there are one or two very rich families in your neighborhood, and they decide that they're going to give every other neighbor a bit of cash to help them out. And but if you do that, you have to give them the right to decide what happens with your home. Not the local authority, not you as a homeowner. It's that neighbor who helped you out. Would you take that money?
Depends how much it was. Oh god! And I suppose that's the same for these guys, right? If I was the EFL, I would renegotiate that to be a rescue fund for several years. I'd want them consistently pumping money so that we can get to level. Was it the gap will be massive? It'll get ridiculous, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, what I think the EFL has to do, rather than just accept the plan happily, which seems to be the case with, is it Parry, the chairman of the EFL? I think they should sit down and negotiate the terms and tell the Premier League clubs, especially the top six, do you really want to help? Well, in that case, if you really want to help, if your help is sincere, let's renegotiate the terms.
Yeah.
Also, I think the Championship, for instance, is big enough and popular enough for the EFL to try to sell it abroad, much in the same way as the Premier League has been sold. Because, believe it or not, in the rest of Europe, and I'm sure that in Asia it's the same, the Championship is very popular. It's regarded as the 5th or 6th league in Europe when it comes to attendances, the size of the clubs. So make the most of your product. Rather than ask for charity, make the most of your product. Try it. Oh, Mike Pence is back. Make the most of your product and try to market it in the best way possible.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I didn't know it was that popular abroad, but ultimately, there's a lot of internationals that play. Not everybody is in playing for a big country. So there's lots of internationals from smaller countries playing at that level. Even, you think about the Northern Islands of the world and the rest of it. They've got lots of people. Scotland, lots of players who are either in the Scottish League or in the League One or Championship. So I get what you're saying. And it's exciting. It's a long season for them, but it's exciting, especially at coming to the business end of things. So yeah, we'll see. But I agree with that as well. Now this is an interesting one. 100 million paid to the FA up front to make up for lost revenue. What do you make of that? That sounds a bit sinister to me.
Well, again, what I detect is an attempt to include 3 or 4 attractive points. If the FA sees that it's going to be given 100 million, it might not apply its golden share and veto when it comes to making any decision. I mean, it's don't want to use the word, but it's
Speak
obviously
line.
I'm not saying it is bribery, but it's a form of convincing people by offering them something in order to get your way.
Nice way put. That's very nicely put. Very professional. I like it. Yeah. Look, let's be honest. The FA were quite happy to sell Wembley Stadium to your owner, Fulham owner. They were quite happy to do it. It's only because of the public and then ultimately the members that got involved. But before that, they were well up for selling it. So let's not make any bones about it. You are able to negotiate with the FA. That's the bottom line. You are able to negotiate and talk things through. So they wouldn't make that kind of proposal unless they thought it was attractive to the FA for whatever reason. So there you go on that one.
Basically, they're making an offer. They're putting something on the table which is attractive, in order to convince the FA to go ahead with their plan. As I said, there's nothing illegal about that. It's just it's an offer. You can take it or leave it, and it's out in the open. It's fair. It's within the rules. So basically, what they're trying to do is make their plan, which contains lots of controversial points, seem attractive to those who eventually will have to back it.
Yeah, it's true. But this is an interesting one. 9 clubs given special voting rights on certain issues based on their extended runs in the Premiership. So we've talked about the top 6. Everton 7. Who would be the other 2 teams for you? Being that
Southampton and West Ham.
I was thinking West Ham. Why Southampton?
It's on the duration of their presence in the Premier League.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
but you see, again, the top 6 are cheating in inverted commas, because in order to lose your status as one of the top 9, a single bad season will not be enough. It's going to be calculated over 3 seasons. Now, any of the top 6 clubs might accidentally have a bad season, but it's unlikely they will have 3 bad seasons.
Yeah.
So they're protecting themselves.
Yeah, no, I get that. And obviously this has been thought out. This is not something that's just been written on the back of a big cigarette packet or something. This has been going on, as has been said here by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and condemned as a backroom deal. This has been going on for a while. They must have been conjuring this up, all the top 6 teams, for a long time. This has not just happened overnight, which is very concerning, really, because they've obviously utilized this time at COVID, where everything's very much at a weak position for the clubs, for the FA, for everybody, to make it a strong position for them to use leverage to get their point across. Because in normal times, this would never really get anywhere, would it? It just stayed on paper.
Well, you know that this has been on the table and it has been discussed for years. And the only reason why we know about it now is because it's been leaked. Yeah. And the top 6 clubs were not happy that it was leaked. And once it was leaked, the rest of the Premier League was not happy with the top 6 because they've been negotiating in secret.
Yeah, I do remember this being happening since the early 2000s, really. Like I said, it's been going for many, many, many years. And like you said, nothing really was made of it. Well, obviously something was made of it, but nothing really came of it. So it's interesting, like I said, that now they've taken advantage of people's weak position under the COVID situation, which is no end in sight, let's be honest, to really push forward with this proposal. So moving on, now we've gone through all the proposals. There's a lot of condemnation and whatever else, great concern, blah, blah, blah. What's your thoughts on the situation? Has this got any traction?
It's got traction because the top six are powerful. And so we have to see how far they're prepared to take this. I'm sure they're not going to let it go away, even if the rest of the Premier League vote it down, even if the FA puts a stop to it. They've got the bit between their teeth, the top six, and this is something they want. If they have been talking to other top European clubs about their plans, and if there is anything afoot regarding a European competition, then who knows? They might be prepared to resign from the Premier League and resign from the FA. Who knows? We don't know. Now, what I'm saying basically is that these first few steps are just the first few steps. And if nothing comes of that, I'm sure that this group of 6 clubs has contingency plans in order to get their way.
100%. There must be a plan B. These guys must know that it's going to get negative feedback. They must know, like I said, that it's quite radical. And they must know that there's going to be pushback from all corners. Obviously, they've already talked to, like I said, the FL, and they're quite happy to get involved for obvious reasons, 250 million reasons. But it's going to take a while to do, but they're obviously pushing it down. It's definitely got traction, but how successful do you think it would be? What's your chance? What's your think's chance of success?
I hope 0, but that's just my hope. I think that eventually, one way or another, if that's what they want, that's what they'll get. Now, if I was a part of the FA and I had any influence within the FA, I would put a stop to it immediately. And I would tell the clubs quite clearly, if you want to do this, leave. And they won't want to leave initially. I mean, they might eventually be prepared to do so, only when a European League is set up sometime in the future. I mean, that's probably years away. But they won't be prepared to leave the FA now. So I would say either you play by the rules or you go. I would threaten them and make them worry about being able to compete. Okay, the FA could not do without the Man Uniteds and the Liverpools and the Tottenham, the Arsenal, the Man City. But by the same token, those clubs could not do without the FA.
Yeah, that's true. And they've
But
got
it doesn't need to come to that because they've got the golden share and all they need to do is veto whatever proposal is passed, if that is the case.
Now, I'm not making assumptions, but I'm sure that's not a finger in the air amount for the FA as well. That's my last point on them. I'm sure that number has come to by not just thinking, oh, that'll be a nice number. There's been discussions of some sort. I'm pretty confident about that. They don't get to 100 million by just saying, yeah, that should be fine. This is very precise, lots of planning involved, and the decision being made on that, on how much is right to get I suppose a positive response. But also, they've just so you know, there's a Premier League shareholders meeting scheduled for this week. So this is to be continued, definitely on this discussion. So we'll find out where they're at with that. The other thing which is quite interesting as well is that the Women's Professional League will go independent, away from the Premier League and the FA. So again, completely autonomous, and I suppose not under their guise. Do you think that would actually help them to actually grow the game, grow the women's game, make it more profitable, make it more attractive for people to join and sponsors?
I'm not sure. It would help because basically women's football, even though it has been played for a long time, is only starting to grow and become popular now. It's in its infancy in that sense. And therefore, to try a breakaway when you're just starting out, I'm not sure is the right way to go. So I have serious doubts about the benefits for women's football.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we've talked a lot about this. It's to be continued. We're going to have another chat. We've obviously got this week.
We could talk about it probably in 2 years' time, and it would still be a valid conversation, because I would doubt that anything will be resolved really quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Then I suppose we'll see what happens out of this meeting that's coming this week. We've obviously got a chat on Friday as well, about 7:30 as well, to talk about all that we've talked about already. So join us for that on Friday, 7:30 again. So, and this Wednesday as well, just whilst we're talking about what's happening this week, this Wednesday, myself and Carlos and a friend of ours, Steve, will be joining us for the England game. And that'll be interesting, because that'll be England against Denmark. Denmark have been playing amazingly, but England beat Belgium 2-1. So we'll talk about that now. Look, England against Wales 3-0. There's no need to really talk about that. It's processional. And the key players for Wales weren't there. But England against Belgium. Belgium, the #1 ranked team in the world, apparently. What did you make of that game?
Well, I wasn't able to watch the whole of it because it wasn't shown here in Spain, but I have seen extended highlights and I've read reports, and it seems to me that Belgium were in control for the first half.
Yeah,
they had chances. They even had chances in the second half, and it was only after at 1-0 to Belgium, towards the end of the first half, England got what I thought was an inexistent penalty. I really didn't think that was a foul. I thought that was a lot of theatricals that fooled the referee and fooled the VAR, and England got into the game thanks to that. In the second half, I still believe that Belgium were the better side. And it was only when Belgium were pushing forward towards the end in order to get an equaliser after a deflected shot, put England 2-1 ahead. It was only after that that England on the break had a few chances. And they were really the only chances that England had once Belgium opened up in order to try to get that equaliser. But on the whole, I think it's safe to say that as it stands today, Belgium are a better team than England.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'd look, England, I thought, got the softest of goals in the penalty. Look, Henderson, even the commentators, the pundits, were having a big discussion about it. It was, he literally felt a touch on his shoulder, and it was arms in the air, almost like he'd been shot in the back. It was ridiculous. It was the softest of touch on the shoulder. He felt it, obviously, Henderson. He knew England was struggling. They needed a goal before the half was ended. Fell over, fooled everybody, like I said. It was ridiculous. Mason Mount's goal was not going towards the goal. It wasn't even going there. But I don't even know who the defender was. It ricocheted off them and left Mignolet kind of, as happens all the time with these kind of ricochets, left standing. So it was a ridiculous game.
What I would say, Mac, about the penalty, England's penalty, is as a South American, I'm used to hearing people in England complain about South American players diving. What I would say is that he who is free of sin casts the first stone.
I agree. I think there's way too much made of South American diving. And,
I mean, they do, but they do in England as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had this conversation about the people almost borderline out of order about it, and look, it happens everywhere. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. it happens. So diving is part of the game, and people, if they can get away with it, can fool the ref, then they'll get away with it. And then there as well, this is quite interesting from an England pundit. They obviously questioned several times Henderson because obviously they knew it wasn't a penalty. But one thing that was very interesting was that they said, the pundits, English, said that if the crowd wasn't there, that would never have been a penalty because no crowd was there. He's able to scream and shout and make a big fool of himself. But if the crowds were there, there's no way that would be given. He just waved off. So, yeah, there was one of those things. But like I said, on Wednesday, the England game is on, and it's at 7:45. And myself, Carlos, and Steve will be watching the game. So that'll be good. We'll have a nice watch along. So please join us for that.
Can I just add something about the game? I said Belgium are a better team than England right now. And I would like to just explain that Martinez has had 4 years at the head of the Belgium national team. So that's 4 years work that Belgium have put in, plus the few years before with the current crop of players. So Belgium have had much longer than England and Southgate to prepare this team and to put it where it is, which is at the top of the rankings. So it's only natural that Belgium, with the crop of players it has, and with all the work they've been able to put in over the last few years, and with a settled side, something we've discussed that England has not had, it's only natural that Belgium should be in a better position right now, even though they lost. I still think they're in a better position.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we'll see what happens when it actually comes to. I mean, this is the Nations League, and the result, will stand. But when it comes to the real nitty gritty of getting into winning actually something, I'll be surprised if it comes out the same result. And I agree with what you said. Martinez has been there for a while. He's got an extended contract after all that happened, and he did well. I remember actually Thierry Henry was his assistant, wasn't he? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and he went off then. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Gareth Southgate's doing a good job. I can't deny that. He's bringing a lot of youth, a lot of strength, a lot of creativity, and he's quite lucky that there's a decent crop that are actually getting games at their clubs. So that's always positive. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, we're going to see England against Denmark. That's going to be a stiffer competition, I believe. Belgium did well, but Denmark are flying. They really are doing really well. So we'll see what happens. England have played them back in September. It was 0-0. We'll see. This game's in Wembley, so we'll see. So me and Carlos and Steve will be there for that. Right, brilliant. Have we missed anything? Is there anything else to cover?
Probably missed a lot, but that's all we have for today.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Thanks as always, Carlos. You've always been a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Like I said, please feel free to leave any comments, and that'd be great. And we'll see you on Wednesday, hopefully, at 7:45 for the England-Denmark game. And if not on Friday, at 7:30 to talk about all that has happened. So thanks for watching the football show, and come back again. That'll be appreciated.